Happy Friday, everyone. It is good to be with you. If you haven't noticed yet, I have new glasses on. I am loving them so far, and it is fun to have new lenses. And it is also fun, as always, to be with you for another wonderful devotional time. Tonight, in tonight's devotion, I want to talk about evangelism. I want to talk about sharing our faith with people. So sharing our faith, evangelism, the fancy word for that, is kind of a dirty word in certain churches. There's a lot of fear, weird anxiety, and even shame when it comes to talking about our faith. And it really does depend on what denomination you're a part of. So I grew up in a more conservative evangelical denomination that was really big on talking about Jesus, talking about your faith. And then I went into a Pentecostal kind of like holy roller denomination when I did the world race. And those were the folks that had tracts. So tracts are these little, you've seen them before, these little paper booklets that you pick up, and they've got like cartoon drawings of like Satan with a pitchfork and a cartoon picture of a person. And there are a lot of like hellfire and brimstone sort of things. And part of evangelism in some of the more Pentecostal denominations is to pass those out to strangers on the street. I remember being a part of a more conservative evangelical denomination in college, college ministry. And we would literally go out and do missions, evangelism missions. And the head of the campus ministry would ask at the end of every night how many numbers we had. What was our number? It was very, very qualitative, and it wasn't quantitative. So I feel like I kind of was on this side of the spectrum. And then when I became United Methodist and more of a progressive Christian, I swung on the other side. And so many people in the more progressive Christian denomination are just like uncomfortable. They just feel like talking about their faith is weird. It might even be inappropriate. But I want to swing from here to here, and I want to come here. I just want to meet everyone in the middle. One of my favorite scriptures is Romans chapter 10, verse 13 through 15. I want to read it for you now. Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. How then can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can anyone preach unless they are sent? As it is written from the prophet Isaiah, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring the good news. So that's Romans 10, 13 through 15. It is one of my all-time favorite scriptures. When I was a missionary for a year overseas, bringing kingdom was kind of my mantra from Romans 10, 15. And I am a huge proponent of sharing the gospel, of talking to people about Jesus, of evangelism. And I'm here tonight to share with you how I feel like we can do that well, and how our motive is important. So I have this wonderful friend who used to be a coworker at Applewood Valley United Methodist Church. His name is Peter Bungie. Peter and I have had wonderful memories together, but one of my favorite memories of Peter was when Peter and his partner Kyle went and saw Greatest Showman, the movie. So Peter and Kyle went to see Greatest Showman. It's about, at this point, 5 years old, and he loved it. And he didn't just love it. He was talking about the Greatest Showman over and over. He went up to me after choir practice at church one night and was like, Angie, you and Russ need to come and see the Greatest Showman with Kyle and I. Like, you need to go. I will go with you. I've already seen it in theaters 3 different times. It is the most wonderful movie, da da da. I remember 2 days later, I came to the church. Peter was practicing the piano. And right before choir practice, he starts playing the Greatest Showman soundtrack. So this was a movie and a musical that had come out that he was so passionate about that he was telling everybody about it. He was talking to everybody about the Greatest Showman. And it was so interesting because the more excited he got, the more excited everyone else got. People in our church choir and our church family who didn't even really go to the movies were excited to go to the movies because Peter was so excited. I would have seen it eventually, maybe on an airplane, maybe at home for a rental. But because Peter had invited me to go with him and was so excited and passionate about this movie, I couldn't wait to go. And it was honestly exciting to watch the movie and look over at Peter and watch him watching the movie. He was passionate. He was charismatic. He was gregarious. And I say all of that because it reminded me of what real, strong, true evangelism should look like. It should not be based on numbers. It should not be based on works or trying to get as many souls as we can to get into heaven, right? It shouldn't be based on shame, that we have to do a certain amount of things because we're afraid of God, all of those things. And we shouldn't be reading a script or giving somebody a track, like, this thing that's got a cartoon of Satan and a pitchfork. Not effective, in my opinion. Damaging theologically, in my opinion. But what does work, and what did work, and what continues to work, is when you love people, and they trust you, and they know you, and they know that you're for them, and you share the things in your life that you are passionate about. It's as simple as that. So my first question to you all, loved ones, is this. Are you so excited about what God is doing in your life, about your faith journey, about what's happening at your church, about your discipleship as a Christ follower in general, that you're talking about it with people? Maybe you are, maybe you're not, but that's my first question. And my second question is to all of those who are a part of creating and cultivating churches experiences, including me. Are we creating moments and experiences and Christ followers and churches where people are so excited and so passionate that they can't wait to share with their neighbors, their communities, their coworkers, their friends, their family members about what they are experiencing at their church? If the answer is no, then we have a lot of work to do. I always think I have a lot of work to do. We all do. So when I think about being the good news, right? How beautiful are the feet of those who bring the good news. I want it to be genuine. I want it to be genuine passion and excitement about Jesus, about what God is doing in our lives. I don't want it to be anything fake. I don't want it to feel like it's like a script that we're reading. That's never effective. I want to organically, through relationships, share what is going on and to invite the people in my life, in my circles, into what is going on in my life. It's really interesting because this week, actually, the reason that this devotion was kind of prompted this week, I have several people in the community that I've gotten to know outside of church that have asked me, are you meeting back in the building? And I was kind of shocked when I said, yes, we are. We're meeting back in the building, 9:30 on Sundays. And a few folks were like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And I was talking about it with Russ, and he was just so honest and straightforward of like, well, of course, because you're so real and authentic about how much you love Jesus and how much God continues to change your life, that people want to be a part of that. So of course there's people in the community that you've gotten to know that want to come to church because they see what is really going on in your life and the genuine nature of your heart, in your sharing, in your speaking. And they see that and they want to be a part of it. So loved ones, I do not expect you to be the next Billy Graham. In fact, Billy Graham realized at the end of his life that he made a lot of mistakes. And there were a lot of things he didn't do well and should have done differently. I do not expect you to be the Apostle Paul, who is constantly going to new, different cities and cultures and researching everything to make sure that you know all of the things before you can make a very intellectual defense. You don't need to be an apologetic professor, so to speak. But I do want you to take some time to think about why you're a Christian. Why do you continue to believe in this whole thing of Jesus coming, dying, and being resurrected? What has the resurrection done for you? And if you were able to articulate that even a little bit, I would invite you to genuinely share it the next time you're with folks. It can be so scary to talk about faith. I was speaking with one of my favorite congregants, and he said, the two things I don't like to talk about, Pastor Angie, is religion and politics. And you and I just talked about both. But talking about religion isn't really what I care about. I want you to just talk about your relationship with Jesus. What has your relationship with Jesus done for you in this past year during this pandemic? What has your relationship with Jesus done in terms of your church family and the church congregation that you're a part of? How has Jesus been by your side? That's the kind of thing that is attractive, exciting, inspirational to so many folks. So go out and be an evangelist today, but do it authentically the way you do it. Don't try to be like me. I know my eyeglasses are incredibly tempting. I know. But just be yourself. So whether you've got somebody that you know and you go on walks with, or you have neighbors that you get together with, all the time, there's people in the community that you know and you've grown up with and you've raised your children, I would encourage you, if you haven't ever shared about your faith, to just share. You might be surprised what responses you get. I love you all. I hope you have a wonderful night and weekend. And I would invite you, if you are in the Billings area, to worship with us at 9:30 a.m. on Sunday morning. If you are not in the Billings area, I would invite you to worship with us online, either on Facebook or YouTube. You are so warmly welcome. And we love you just as you are. Bye.